I don't know whether we thanked you enough for participating in this Infobip Shift conference. Of course, that is the official hashtag. So if you would like to share anything online, use that so we can all see all the tremendous things you wrote or published. Anyways, I don't know whether you're acquainted with the information that this is the largest developer conference in the Southeastern Europe, and always had a purpose and a goal to actually gather all of the brightest minds in that business from all around the globe. And we're very happy to say that there are 3,000 attendees in this year's edition, which is a great number. So a big applause for all of you, both here. Thank you. Thank you. Third row. Thank you. Thank you. And the first row. Come on. What's happening, Sean? Why? Yeah, thank you. But this is also a hybrid conference. So hello to everybody who is watching us online. So anyways, 10 years going, it's a great thing, but it also proves that not only the brightest minds are on the stages of conferences such as these, but also in the audience. And it means actually that you're eager to learn, but also to expand your network during the after party. So I guess that during the 2 days, you're going to be enjoying the after parties, which of course the people on stream are not, but well, there's always next year, especially when it's 11th. So let me just check whether everything with the stream is okay. And no, it's not yet. So, do you know the person on my right-hand side? I mean, you're here for his lecture, so everybody's nodding. So, what do you think about his job? Yeah, coming from the first row. Yeah. From those people. So, how do you like Croatia?
I love it.
Have you been here before?
No.
This is your first time?
Yes.
When did you arrive?
Yesterday.
Did you have a chance to see anything at Zadar?
Not yet, but today, after my talk, I will.
But yeah, don't rush it now because you want to go outside. It's a different climate, I guess, here from even the north of Croatia. So are you going to stay here for a longer period or just a couple of days for the conference?
Thursday.
That's cool. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
They told me that you guys have great parties.
Well, I hope we're going to see you on the dance podium of the parties.
Yeah.
We should be having some great parties. I hope we will. Have you been to any recent conferences like this?
It depends. What do you mean by conferences like this?
Being here live on stage with live audience due to all what has been happening in the past year and a half.
This year.
Not this year?
First this year, yeah.
Did you miss it?
I don't know. I miss this feeling for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think that's best meeting people in real life. Online conferences are nice, but this feeling when you talk to people, it's something you can't have online. So yeah, I did miss this.
I agree totally. So do you prefer being on a stage or networking?
Both.
Yeah? Who's laughing again? The front rows. I'm sure everything is going to be fine with our stream soon. Guys, is it working or not? We don't want the people who are online to miss anything. So we're just going to ask you guys, what do you prefer on conferences? Let's, for instance, ask Anna Plišić, a beautiful member of the audience, who I know loves conferences, especially the biggest one in Southeastern Europe. Come on, we have to fix this. So hello, Anna. How come you're here? What's the reason for buying the ticket to join Infobip Shift?
Well, this is definitely a conference with a reputation, with the great speakers and great content, and that's why we are all here. And we are also partners of Infobip, C3 agency.
Of course you are. Oh, a little bit of PR and marketing right here, huh? C3 agency, if anybody didn't hear this properly. So did you do some networking? Or have you just been attending?
We just arrived here an hour ago.
Okay, so welcome to Zadar. I'm sure you love it, and because I know you're from Croatia, I will not ask you how you love Zadar, but you guys need to get to know it. Oh, do you, Sebastien, know some things that you need to see in Zadar?
Sorry?
do you know some touristic spots which you have to see in Zadar?
No, but you're going to tell me?
Oh, I will. So, Zadarske orgulje. Oh, this is a great thing for a French guy to actually pronounce. Zadarske orgulje. Oh, come on.
That is cool. No.
Well, close, close. It's a beautiful thing. If you go to the center and then go to the seafront, it actually really plays music. So that would organ. Organ is the English word for that instrument, which is usually played in big churches,
okay.
cathedrals, and that where
How do you say it in
the wind
Croatian?
or the air produces sound. Might be actually interesting for you. What else? The cathedral, of course. Just walk around. It's beautiful, and the people are lovely. And the food, do you like it?
I didn't eat yet,
Well, it's Mediterranean.
but I will right after this talk.
Yeah, don't be angry with me because I'm asking you all these questions before you
I
need
think
to
we
go
should
on
sit
with your
down
talk. Yeah, we
anyway.
can sit down and just in Croatia. So I guess you know the name of this hall is not just Višnjik, is also Krešimir Ćosić, one of our best basketball players of all times. Of course, you know about Dražen Petrović, I'm sure, and all other basketball players. But I know you also like basketball, so this is actually a perfect spot for you.
Yeah.
Being in a basketball temple and right before the after party on which you can dance, because I know you like dancing.
You know everything about me, and I don't know anything about you.
Well, that's the beauty of my job. You don't know anything about me, and I Google you thoroughly.
Oh, okay.
And you're Googleable, actually.
Yeah, that's
In a
true.
good way. So don't worry. So anyways, finally, thumbs are up. Hello, everybody who's watching us on stream. Thank you very much for being here with us on the 10th edition of Infobip Shift Conference, which is being held here in the Basketball Temple in the city of Zadar, which he is going to explore today right before he dances off somebody at the dance floor during our after party. So if you guys like to dance, he's the perfect partner. If you would like to challenge him one-on-one in the room next door where I saw some baskets, you can also try doing that. But of course, not before you finish listening to him. Because on the other hand, if you would like to talk about edge side rendering, he's also the guys. He is the CEO of NuxtLabs and the creator of Nuxt.js. Straight from beautiful Bordeaux. Bienvenue, Sebastien Chopin.
Thank you.
Finally, the stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you. That was a great intro. Hello everyone. I'm glad to be here. And today I'm going to talk about edge-side rendering with Nuxt. First, what is Nuxt? So Nuxt is a web framework created 5 years ago, composed with a build-to-chain. So Webpack, Babel, PostCSS. Vite is coming, by the way, in the next version. Some Vue essentials like Vue, Vue Router, Vuex, and Vue Meta. And a server engine, obviously, because it gives you capabilities to start any web project, and it supports server-side rendering, static-side generation, and client-side rendering. So why Nuxt? Because you can start really fast a web project. You simply have to start with one command. Then we have this file system routing, like in PHP. But instead of writing PHP, you write Vue file, which is composed of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We have the state management with Vuex, and you simply have to create a store directory. We do have this component auto-import, because I'm too lazy, so we had to find a way to automatically import your components once you use them in your templates. We also have strong conventions we did after 5 years of development. So when you start working on a Nuxt project and you're switching to another Nuxt project, you will be productive in a matter of minutes because it's the same directory structure. We do have a great module ecosystem with more than 200 modules, and it allows you to completely modify the Nuxt core or extend it as you want. Obviously, it supports server-side, static-side generation, server-side rendering, client-side rendering, and it has a vibrant community that I'm really happy to have. So what is server-side rendering? For those that doesn't know, and not traditional server-side rendering, I'm talking about server-side rendering with Vue and Nuxt. So let's say I'm using my favorite browser, Internet Explorer, going to my website. I will hit my Nuxt server. So I do need a Nuxt server. And let's say I'm using a headless API like Strapi or WordPress. My visitor will go on the website, he will hit the Nuxt server. We will actually run your Vue application. let's say on my homepage, I'm fetching my list of blog posts, hitting my headless API, sending me back some JSON, and then when I'm finished rendering the view, I will send back to the browser. So fully render HTML. At this time, the visitor can already scroll, click on link. If you click on the link at this time, it will refresh the page, but it will work without JavaScript. Then the browser will actually download and execute the JavaScript that we serve. And then there is something called client-side hydration, where Vue will rebuild the same app that was served from the server and hydrate the HTML, so it becomes reactive. Then when I will click on a blog post, let's say, it will not hit the Nuxt server again. You forget about the Nuxt server. It will directly code the API, sending back some JSON, and then you have this client-side navigation. So why should I use server-side rendering? Well, one of the most features is SEO, because we render the whole HTML, the search engine will be able to parse everything. And of course, when you share it on any social media, you will have this nice social preview. But on top of that, improve the user experience in a way that the user is ready to read your content before any of the JavaScript is executed. And then you have this fancy client-side navigation, allowing to have offline capabilities and more performance improvement. And on top of that, because we server render your page and we code split every pages, we are able to only render the CSS and the JavaScript which is needed on this particular page. So let's quickly see a demo. I guess I need to. Looks good. So that is the new website coming that I'm spotting to you. But if we look at the source code, you can see that the whole HTML has been server rendered, which is great for SEO. We also have this preload link that we add so as hints for the browser to know that it will need this JavaScript at the end. So everything is optimized. And obviously, when you start navigating on client side, you have this client-side navigation, keeping your user satisfied. And on top of that, we're able to prefetch all the links displayed and start caching them to be completely offline. But it's not all great. We do have limitation with Nuxt 2 and server-side rendering. It's tied to Node.js environment, which obviously limits the deployment platform you can have. We have a slow boot time in production, around 250 milliseconds. It's slow for me. So it's not optimized for serverless, because you don't want to pay 250 milliseconds every time you want to server render on a Lambda function. And you need to install Nuxt in order to run it in production, which is about 30 megabytes. So in order to solve this, I'm happy to introduce Nuxt Nitro, which is the next generation rendering engine that powers Nuxt 3, which is still in private beta. But we actually bring it back to Nuxt 2 with Nuxt Bridge. We actually produce a highly optimized output directory. It is cross-platform, so it works on Node, Dino, Cloudflare workers, and even the browser service worker. And it's made for cold start performance. On top of that, we also handle the API routes with hot module replacement and this isomorphic fetch, which means that if you server render a page and you make an API call to yourself, it won't do the round trip again. It will directly call the function in your code. But first, let's discuss about the highly optimized output I'm talking about. We are using Vercel NFT package to trace all the Node.js dependency or the Node module to only include the code that is used for production, which means that you don't have to yarn install your code. After running Nuxt build, you can use this dot output, move it everywhere, just run Node, and it will work. We code split the server bundle, So if you hit an API route, we won't even lazy load the Vue application. The default size is less than 1 megabyte, which allow you to deploy it to Cloudflare workers, which is 5 megabytes of limitation today. And the call start is around 2 milliseconds, which is 100 times faster than the current Nuxt 2. And then let's talk about the cross-platform output. We auto-mock other Node.js dependency that you may not need. We created lightweight polyfills for Node built-ins, like fetch and others. We created this NGS organization on GitHub that you can check out and see all the work we have done, which is universal. So it's not only tied to Nuxt, but any framework that want to enjoy this cross-platform output. We also auto-detect the platform you can deploy to. And we are able to render in the browser service worker. Even if it's experimental, we don't recommend to do it, because you will leak some API keys inside, but it's possible. And you can actually deploy it everywhere. So it works from Firebase to Heroku and Vercel. So this means that you have truly hybrid development. We handle static file, server-side rendering on the Lambda function with caching features. So we're working with most of these teams to have zero configuration deployment. I guess it's time for a demo now. So this is how my Nuxt app look like. I installed Nuxt and I installed NuxtBridge, which is still private but will be released at the end of this month. And that's my Nuxt config, which is empty, and I have an index page. So let's start Nuxt in development. I do have a default template, so I can know what page I need to create. And let's start with a random number, so we can see later on how it look like. So for this, oh, but that's not easy to code like this. Thanks, I have Copilot with me, so I don't need to code anymore. It's like cheating. And then I will just create a random number, random. So if I check this, every time I refresh, I think that's everyone knows what it does. And I will do the same for a quote that I'm going to fetch from an API. Random. Yeah, yes, that's correct. And on this one, quote, author, quote, content. And since I'm using Vue 2, I need to wrap everything in one div. And okay, and now every time I refresh, what did I do? Okay, I do have a random quote that is fed from an API. I do have server-side rendering, so you don't have to do anything particular to enjoy server-side rendering. And let's build it for production. So I'm not using Nitro in this demo. I'm going to. But let's see the performances when I run npx nuxt start. npx nuxt start. So the cold start is about 280 milliseconds. And we were not happy about this. But when it's loaded, obviously, it's quite fast. If I look at the network and the server-side rendering is taking about 8 milliseconds. So it's quite fast. But now let's activate Nitro using NuxtBridge. This is for debugging purpose to explain you what's happening under the hood. So then I'm building it again. So Nitro, on top of being a server engine, it's a second stage build. So it's actually bundling everything using Rollup. We use Webpack for your View app, but then we use Rollup. So we actually produce this. This is quite hard to talk with the people behind. Can you guys hear me, though? Okay, because there was like no one here from the beginning. So that's what it produces. We have a Dart output directory, and this is the Nuxt server minified. So we kind of eject the whole server engine and the app. We trace the dependency we use inside. Only the JavaScript file and package.json are inside. We also have the chunks from the server, and this is the Vue.js JavaScript file that is used on the client. And if I want to start, as you can see, there is no more Nuxt command. I'm just running this. And if we look, the call start is 2 milliseconds. The first render is about 71 milliseconds because it's actually lazy loading all the chunks we need. So the static middleware, the rendering middleware, the manifest for rendering the Vue app. And then when it's in memory, it's about 5 milliseconds. So it's really fast. And on top of this, I want to show you the server API. So that's my hello world. I'm going to create a server endpoint. Yes. And inside this one, nope. So Nitro is also injecting $fetch, which is a isomorphic data fetching that will avoid, during the server-side rendering, recalling the server, making it even faster. So here, I'm getting my message. So wait, $fetch, API hello. And let's update our API. So one thing on top of that with Nitro is you can change your API without having to restart the whole server, which was happening in Nuxt 2. So if I say, hello, Infobip shift, it's refreshed, and it took 44 milliseconds to refresh the whole server engine. And going back to localhost, I do have this information. So when I refresh, like I mentioned, it will automatically code the function instead of making an API call on the server side. But on the client side, it will make a normal API call. If I look here, I do have. So let's build for production now. I want to show you what's happening when we lazy load. We work really hard to make the best performances for Nuxt using Nitro for both Nuxt 3 and Nuxt 2. So let's run this again. And this time, I'm only calling the API. As you can see, we are only loading the static middleware and then the hello chunk. So every root on the server is code splitted as well. And once I hit the app, it will actually lazy load the old chunks. And I want to show you how easy it is to deploy to Cloudflare workers with this. So I'm telling the Nitro preset environment variable, saying yarn build. So Nitro detected is for Cloudflare. We actually have presets for most of the provider I've shown you. And then I'm ready to publish using Wrangler. So obviously I need a wrangler.qml file. And when it's done, we have Nuxt running on Cloudflare workers. And I had nothing to do except adding Nitro to a current Nuxt 2 application. We do have server-side rendering working. And as you can see, the time to render is about 60 milliseconds. What you need to understand is the server-side rendering is actually happening inside the CDN nodes. So instead of when you do normal server-side rendering with a node hosting or even serverless, you actually choose your location, like San Francisco or Europe. But then if you live in US and you have your server in Europe, you will have this network latency. With this, you actually scale indefinitely and will go to the closest edge to do this rendering. On top of that, since we are on top of Cloudflare, we can add any caching layer on top of this using state-wide revalidate or any caching strategy. And I think that's it. If we look at the output Nuxt generates, after 5 years, we made sure that everything is perfect, to have, as perfect as we can to have a great score. And if you look at this website from all the locations in the world, you can see that the time to first byte is under 200 milliseconds using Cloudflare workers. I challenge you to have the same scores without using this edge-side rendering and without having a DevOps in your team. So you can check the demo on shift.nuxt.workers.dev. I'm Sebastien Chopin, like she mentioned. I'm the CEO at NuxtLabs. You can find me on the social network, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn with @Nuxt. And at NuxtLabs, on top of working on Nuxt.js that I presented to you, which is a Vue framework, we're also working on a document-driven framework that is going to be open source next month, based on Markdown and Vue components with a brand new syntax. And then we created Vue Telescope for you to discover all the websites made with Vue.js. So if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer yours. And thank you very much for your time.
Merci, merci, or thank you, or hvala. Also one beautiful Croatian word, which is great to know around here. Hvala.
Voilà.
Hvala. Thank you so very much. Sebastien Chopin, ladies and gentlemen.